Our guest today is Clay Dant, Executive Director at Autumn Leaves Memory Care in Bolingbrook. Welcome, Clay.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
First, maybe share a little bit about your background with our listeners so they'll get to know you a little bit before we get into talking about Autumn Leaves.
Sure. Thanks, Kathy. So my background, I started in the long-term care field when I was in high school. I was 16. That was my part-time job after school, was being a waiter in the dining room.
This is such a cool story.
It is a great story.
So I just kind of started doing that, and then as I continued through school, I just tried the jobs that popped up. So I worked in the kitchen for a while as a cook, and then I was a security guard for a couple of years, and I was their bus driver, and just did all these sort of odds and ends frontline jobs. And as I was doing those, I was going through school, and so then once I graduated from college, they moved me into management, and I ran one of their facilities for a while. It was an apartment complex for seniors. So I did that for a few years, and then finally got into memory care at Autumn Leaves as the assistant director, and then moved up to the executive director. So
that is one. That's good. That's a great story of being totally immersed in the long-term care facility management.
That's right. I'm still in awe. Now, Claire shared with me. Okay, he started at 16. He is only 26. Okay, and he's the executive director of a major memory care company, Autumn Leaves, which is just impressive. So I've been in all morning, and what a heart for seniors.
Yeah.
So that is fantastic.
Thank you.
Clay, share. Well, first of all, Clay was recently married, and since he mentioned he was a cook. Who cooks at home?
That's a good question. During the week, my wife cooks. She gets home earlier.
Oh, okay.
And so she does the cooking during the week usually. But then on the weekends, then it's mostly me.
The chef takes over.
Yeah.
All right.
So it's a good balance though.
Clay, share us a little bit of the history of Autumn Leaves.
Sure. So Autumn Leaves. Is a family-owned company, and we only focus on memory care. So we were started in Texas over 20 years ago, and that's kind of the South is sort of our largest region, and then the second largest is up here in the Midwest. And so we've got now 11 communities in the Midwest. We have Illinois, Kansas, and Wisconsin. That's our region. And so we're continuing to grow, and more communities throughout the country are opening up every year. But it's only memory care, and so everything from the design of the buildings to the staffing structure to everything about the company was designed with memory care in mind.
Now, which is extremely impressive. If you haven't been to an Autumn Leaves, we're going to talk a little bit more about that today. But could you describe the layout of the facilities?
Sure. So most of the buildings are laid out the exact same way, and basically there's sort of a big ring, like a donut, and then in each corner, if you will, there's a neighborhood. And so the way, or the reason why that was done is it promotes wandering for those that do like to walk and wander. They're free to sort of walk the main loop, and they typically end up back up front where there's always activities and things going on, and then sort of breaking them up the hallways into 4 shorter hallways helps because they're easier to navigate. You don't have these long, sort of ominous, intimidating hallways for those that may be intimidated by that.
What's also cool about this layout is we often hear about sometimes dementia people going through violent or getting very agitated. Promoting the wandering actually helps that symptom.
Yeah, no, very much so. Allowing those who need to get up and walk around and sort of burn off some of that energy or anxiety, allowing them to just do that freely. And at all hours of the day or night. I mean, some get up at 2 and they just want to walk around, and that's fine. So.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Well thought.
Thanks. So that's a good segue into the next question is, when you think about your staff development, what specific dementia training do they receive that helps them care effectively and compassionately for your residents?
Sure, yeah. The staffing and the staff training is like such a key part of who we are and what we do. So with us being a memory care, we fall under the same technical regulations as an assisted living, but our staff, before they're even on the floor, have to go through a lot of dementia-specific training, and that's everybody. So that's me, that's our caregivers, our nurses, our housekeepers, everybody that works in the building goes through at least 16 hours of dementia-specific training before they even start. And so some of that is about the disease process and sort of the different types of dementias, and so it's more of the technical side. But then a lot of it is about the approach and the best ways to approach those with dementia, and just sort of best practices in memory care as far as a day-to-day, tangible level. And then after that, we offer ongoing training always. So every month, I'm usually doing training, or we're having outside companies come in and offer in-services and training. As the industry evolves and our knowledge, as an industry grows, I want to make sure that I'm bringing that to all of my staff.
So, what type of activities do the residents enjoy?
Yeah, it's funny. There's always the stereotype that it's bingo all day, every day. And we do play our fair share of bingo for those that enjoy it. But so every day we've got a calendar of events that we try to stick to, and we usually incorporate a lot of the different areas of wellness. So there'll be some exercise programs to promote the physical wellness and sort of that energy and movement, and then we've got a lot of entertainers coming in to sing and play music. Music's a big part of our life engagement program, and then spending a lot of time with art as well. Art is art doesn't require memory, and so anyone can paint, and even if they're not painting something specific, just the feel of creating art and the tactile response of the paper or the paint or whatever it is, that's a big part of it. So we try to incorporate as many sort of different things as we can, because no two people are the same, and it's about trying to keep as many people engaged as long as we can.
Well, speak, if you would, a minute about your aromatherapy and how that works and how that affects them.
Sure. That's been a really cool program that we've started this year, at the end of last year. So we use a lot of different essential oils, both sort of in a diffuser, just to get that smell and aroma into the air, and then we also create hand lotions with the different oils, and so some like lavender are calming, and others like lemon or citrus promote appetite and energy. And so depending on the type of day and what that individual resident needs at that moment, we might say, let's get out some lavender lotion and give them a hand massage or an arm massage or a back massage, or using the combination of touch and feel, as well as the different aromas, and we've seen a pretty cool effect. A lot of lowered anxiety and lowered behaviors and things like that.
So the outcomes have been productive.
Yeah, very much so. I enjoy it, and it's seeing the effects of it has been really cool.
By the way, do you ever do baked cookies?
Oh yeah.
Oh my.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Cookies and fresh baked bread is like.
That's the aromatherapy you're talking about.
That's the raw. You had those. No, so I had thought those aromas.
I made myself hungry.
Yeah.
So, and that is extremely impressive. What Autumn Leaves and how personalized they make all of these, whether it be an activity or just things to offer. We were talking over breakfast about, or you were just saying about your ongoing training. You just recently had a compassionate touch event at your place, and how important is touch to the people that live there?
Oh yeah, touch is very, very important. Especially, I mean, it's important for anyone at sort of any stage in the disease, but especially sort of in those later stages. when maybe eyesight isn't as good and hearing isn't as good, but touch is always there. And so learning, not just walk by and sort of brush somebody in the arm, but to stop and spend time and hold their arm and maybe rub their hand a little bit. It has such a calming, sort of grounding effect, and it also gives them an opportunity to have human connection. When a lot of times people are lacking that connection throughout the day, spending time with somebody and getting that human interaction, human connection, is big. And so touch, I've learned specifically in memory care versus the other levels of care that touch is so important.
Does your facility offer spiritual and religious services?
We do, yeah. So our largest population right now, our largest religion is Catholic, and so there's a Catholic church that comes every Wednesday and offers a service. But then any religion that we have, we try to accommodate. And so before anyone moves in, their families fill out a long, we call it a portrait, but it's many pages of who they are and what they like and activities and their religions if they had them, and then we take that and try to base our activities programs, but then other things like our menus as well as the religious services and spiritual offerings to cater to that individual. And so and that's often very important. We see that especially that even once a lot of the other the disease starts progressing, and maybe, like I said, eyesight is gone, hearing is gone, and maybe the resident is sort of becoming a bit more withdrawn. Oftentimes they still remember how to pray, and they still will recite various religious things that they've grown up with and that's been important to them.
Right.
And so we know that matters to them at every single stage. So
Very important.
When you think about engaging them in kind of reminiscing about the past, they can get a lot of enjoyment out of that. How do you guys encourage that?
Yeah, there's sort of, unofficially, sort of two ways in which we do that. So one is a very, very intentional, direct. We'll pull out old photos of old actors or actresses or famous places and famous things like that, events, and we'll just spend time talking about them, and passing around pictures and things like that. And that's sort of the more obvious way. But aside from that, which I think is pretty cool, is we'll do things with the residents that they've always grown up doing. And so maybe it's washing dishes, maybe it's outside planting. And so we'll bring in dirt and just sort of have our hands in the dirt, and while we're interacting with that, we're talking to them about, oh, tell me about the garden you had when you were growing up, or growing up on the farm, or things like that. And so that, because that was familiar to them and that was something that they did their whole lives, that often triggers a lot more memories than just seeing a picture or talking about it.
To be actively involved in an activity that spurs those memories.
Yeah,
Wow,
yeah.
cool.
And so that's kind of a cool way that's not as obvious, but when you're in it, you're like, wow, I'm hearing stories from so far back that they may not have remembered for many years, and it kind of all comes back to them. So.
Can you think of any additional programs or activities that maybe you especially do during the day or week or year?
Yeah. So one of the cool things that we do is that we've partnered with the local high school. So part of that is a lot of their students need X amount of volunteer hours, and we want more hands on on deck, and especially intergenerational. There's something to be said about mixing the generations and things, and so we've invited a lot of the high school students, and so a lot of them come either regularly or just sporadically when they have the time, and spend time with our residents. And so that could be as simple as just holding their hands and walking around and talking to them, or some of them will come with a talent they have. They may bring their violin and perform and things like that. But really encouraging the intergenerational interaction is pretty huge, and a lot of those students have found it pretty eye-opening. They've never had no experience in this field and stuff, and so they end up learning a lot about it and sort of falling in love with it, and then the residents are benefited from it. So that's sort of one of the cool things that we've done.
Oh, thank you guys for taking the thoughts so deep to do that. And not only, you know, as we age, and I've noticed this being in the industry, as we age, the younger generation becomes so much more important. It also puts it helps put a lot of life back in a person.
Yeah.
You know, and you know, somebody suffering from dementia, I can imagine them going back to those days and thinking about their lives and things like that. How important is that? And I have to say, and I want to give a shout out to all the millennials out there. We just did an event at a CNA school, and the younger generation has a tremendous heart that I don't think everybody, yes, they have such a compassionate heart.
Well, we've got one sitting right
Well,
here.
I'm
you
looking
go,
at this
there
young
you
man,
go.
and I mean,
Yep.
it really brings a lot of hope to the world.
They're going to be the caretakers.
Yeah.
Here they are, the caretakers.
Mhm.
You know, it's interesting you brought that up too about the younger generation, how the effects that is when you are in an assisted living or memory care facility. The older you get, retirement home. All you have to do is think about any grade school or preschool when you were a kid walking into one of those homes to perform your Christmas songs or whatever, and
Yes.
every hand was reaching out to you. I mean,
Yes.
that important. If you realize the significance of that and the power that it has, you appreciate it a lot more the older you get.
Absolutely. So good job, Clay.
Thanks. Yeah. It's we always say dogs and babies, the two things that if there's a dog or there's a
That's
baby in the
right. Yep.
building, every
Yep.
resident is calm and
Number
happy
one.
and wanting to.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
Can you walk our listeners through the admissions process if someone is looking into their loved one, whether or not a memory care facility is the right fit for them?
Sure. So sometimes it's a pretty quick process, or it can be. You know, oftentimes our residents are coming from either a hospital or a rehabilitation center, and so it's usually they're being discharged, and so and they can't go back home or wherever they previously were, and so the families sort of have to make a pretty quick choice. So the admissions process, if needed, can go very quickly. You know, there's sort of some preliminary paperwork and doctor paperwork and things like that, but then one of the most important parts of that is our assessment. So I, myself, and my director of healthcare will go and meet that resident wherever they are. You know, I've gone as far as 5 hours south to meet with a potential resident and just spend time with that person, talking to them. You know, seeing their medical history in paper is good, but seeing them in real life and getting to know them as a person is so much more important. And so we do that so that I know that I'd be able to take care of them and that our facility or our community is the right fit, because I'd hate to have somebody move in and then it not be the right fit.
Right,
These moves are
right.
so stressful, and it's, you know, such a change. And so that sort of assessment process is key. And then once that's done and I feel confident and I tell the families that yes, I think, you know, I'm going to be able to care for your mom or dad or spouse or whoever it may be. At that, then it's really just pick a date. You know, our rooms are all furnished and ready to go, so we can do those sort of quick moves. So that's sort of the typical process.
And I you know, that's very important that you have that personal touch on that. Are there any circumstances that a client would need to relocate from an autumn leaves?
Yeah, there are some. It doesn't happen very often. So our community is an age and place facility, and so typically once a resident moves in and they've sort of met the requirements to move in, the vast majority will stay there up through the end stages. And so typically at that point, you know, we bring in a hospice company to just provide an extra level of care.
Yes.
But our residents, the vast majority, will stay there until they pass there, which is nice because they don't have to be moved to a hospital or, you know, a hospice setting.
Right.
The few times I'd say that somebody has to move from our facility to another is if they need, say, a piece of equipment that has to be at a skilled nursing facility. So if they need a Hoyer lift or they need a feeding tube or something that the state doesn't allow us as an assisted living to have, then they would need to be relocated to maybe a skilled nursing facility. But that doesn't happen very often, you know.
Right. Yeah, so it's only in the event, or in most cases, it's only the event that they would need a great amount of actual care.
Yeah.
Health care.
Right.
So,
And
okay.
even then, it's only the health care that that requires some of those big pieces of equipment. You know.
Yeah,
I mean,
right.
somebody
Special
being-
licensing
Yeah.
and things like that. Got it.
Exactly.
Got it.
Exactly.
What educational events? You were talking about education before. Do you guys keep that to yourselves, or is it open to general public and the families?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. We love to invite our families to any sort of continuing education classes that we have or events that we have. You know, there's never a limit to how much you can learn with this disease process, and there's so much that we're learning and that we don't know. You know, I mean, all the education that I have, that I've sort of pursued myself, you know, to become a certified dementia practitioner and some of these other things that the coursework I've taken with, it's still just a small fraction of the total knowledge out there.
Right.
And so we try to, you know, offer it to our staff as well as our families. And then we also like to learn ourselves. So if there are people that are doing something really well, then we invite them. Hey, can you come to our facility and give us a presentation so that we can better ourselves, and then spread that to the staff or the families or our visitors or whoever it may be. So yeah, we love trying to share what we know.
You know, sometimes mealtime can be tricky as the disease progresses. How do you address like the resident that's just not interested in eating, or the reverse, a resident that's just, you know, maybe overeating or eating just the sweets or whatnot?
Chocolate chip cookies.
Yeah. No, you nailed it there. Meal times definitely have or can have their challenges. I think the best way to address it is to really spend time learning or getting to know your residents and getting to know who are the ones that maybe need more encouragement to eat. Sometimes it's a different time, so maybe they've always slept in and had a later breakfast, and so trying to get them up and eat breakfast at 8 or 8:30, maybe that's not what they've done their whole life. And so getting to know that and then saying, you know what, we'll try to keep food hot for them and try at 9, try at 9:30, you know, just trying different things. So that's sort of one of the big pieces is not just trying the same thing over and over again and saying, well, it's not working. Just to realize that everyone is so different that different approaches might help encourage those that need more encouragement. So that's part of it. And then as far as the other side, when people want to eat too much, or maybe they want to help themselves to the neighbor's food, then it's just sort of, you know, being prepared and making sure that they have enough and that they're full. And then you know, maybe one-on-one, I might take that resident into another room and spend time walking around with them, or I'll say, you know what, I need some help with these files in my office, and I'll take them back to my office, and we'll just talk and, you know, sort of putz around in there so that they're not seeing that food and sort of having those triggers. So.
Oh, how neat!
Oh yeah, I've got a lot of different helpers and things, and sometimes they're my bosses. It's just
But there's a strategy behind it, and all of it is patient centered.
Yeah, understanding the person-centered care instead of task-oriented care. You know, is that there's reason behind what we're doing, and so even if we have to change what we're doing or change our approach, or maybe it's time for a shower on the schedule, but they're not ready for a shower, then wait. You know, I mean, it's understanding that the person is more important than the task. And so,
such a good point.
So, how can a family arrange a tour of your autumn leaves or an autumn leaves in general?
Sure. So I'd say the easiest way is just to call our building directly. You know, it's the same phone number for our building. So most of the families that call will talk to either myself or I have a director of sales who will sort of arrange a tour and sort of go through that process. But any family that calls in, if they say, oh, I'm in the Elgin area or I'm in the St. Charles area or something, then we would say, you know what, we have another building that might be closer to your location. You know, I'm happy to help, or you're more than welcome to come to our community. But here is Autumn Leaves of St. Charles or whatever the case may be as well, you know, and then we'd get them in touch with some of the other buildings as well, so that they just have more options and maybe one that's closer. You know, so that's probably the best way. And if nothing else, we're 24-hour staff, so they can just walk in at any time. And there's always somebody that would be happy to show them around.
Oh, I think that's excellent.
I was just gonna say, can we get the phone number that would, to initially talk to you, so then they can determine where they can go to or arrange a tour somewhere?
Sure. So our direct phone number is 630-759-0797. And that's for me at the Bolingbrook location, but like I said, we'd be able to funnel it out anywhere after that.
Now, do you have a website they could check out?
Yeah. If they just go to autumnleaves.com, and then it'll have all of our locations available, and so then you can sort of browse by location and click on ours, and you can go from there.
Well, thank you so much, Clay, for being our guest today.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you so much for having me.